Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools, because they have to say something.
Why is the fool often wiser than the so-called wise? At first glance, the fool is someone we dismiss, a figure of mockery, a person who stumbles through life without thought or caution. But history, psychology, and philosophy tell a different story. The fool is more than just an object of laughter. He is a paradox, a character both ignorant and insightful, both reckless and wise. Throughout mythology, literature, and real life, fools have played a crucial role in exposing uncomfortable truths, breaking social conventions, and embracing a form of wisdom that the so-called wise often ignore. The fool disrupts, questions, and ultimately transforms the world around him, not despite his foolishness, but because of it. In this video, we will explore the psychology of the fool. We'll delve into the archetypes presented by Carl Jung, the literary fools who reveal truth through humor, and the ways in which embracing the fool within us can lead to personal growth and freedom. By the end, you may begin to see that sometimes it is only by embracing our own foolishness that we can truly become wise. The fool is one of the most ancient and universal archetypes, appearing in myths, folklore, and psychological theory across cultures. Carl Jung identified the fool as a crucial component of the collective unconscious, a character representing both naivety and the potential for transformation. In Jungian psychology, the fool is often seen as a form of the trickster archetype, an unpredictable force that challenges conventions and exposes hidden truths. Similarly, Joseph Campbell, in his exploration of the hero's journey, describes the fool as a necessary figure in the path of self-discovery. The fool is often the one who embarks on the journey with reckless abandon, unafraid of failure, and in doing so, gains wisdom that others overlook. In many myths, the fool eventually becomes the wise man, suggesting that wisdom is often gained through a willingness to take risks and embrace uncertainty. Beyond mythology, the fool plays an essential role in human development. Children, for example, often act like fools, exploring the world without fear of embarrassment, trying new things and making mistakes freely. This uninhibited approach to life is crucial for learning and personal growth. However, as we grow older, we become conditioned to avoid foolishness, fearing judgment and failure. Yet, the fool within us remains a vital force for change, pushing us to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace new possibilities. In society, the fool is often the disruptor, the one who dares to speak the truth when others remain silent. From court jesters of medieval times, who had the unique privilege of mocking kings without consequence, to modern-day comedians who challenge societal norms through humor, the fool serves as a necessary force of disruption. They reveal hypocrisy, question authority, and remind us that wisdom does not always come in the form of solemnity and control, but sometimes in laughter and absurdity. By understanding the fool as an archetype, we begin to see its importance not only in myth and history, but in our own lives. The fool reminds us that wisdom often begins with humility, that growth requires risk, and that sometimes the most profound truths are found in the most unexpected places. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The fool isn't always your guide. Sometimes he's your greatest threat. The difference? Awareness. When was the last time your foolish side taught you something real? Let us know below. Tap like if this made you think twice, and subscribe for more inner rewiring. Moving on, the dual nature of the fool. The fool is not a one-dimensional character. He is both a source of wisdom and a cautionary tale, a figure that can lead to freedom or destruction. Understanding this dual nature is crucial, as embracing the fool in the right way can unlock growth, creativity, and truth, while unchecked foolishness can lead to blind recklessness and delusion. The positive fool: freedom, playfulness, and wisdom. The positive fool is playful, curious, and unburdened by societal expectations. He does not take himself too seriously, and in doing so, exposes the rigid structures of society. By embracing uncertainty and failure, he finds new opportunities and perspectives that others are too afraid to explore. A prime example is Socrates, often considered the archetypal wise fool. He famously claimed that his wisdom came from knowing that he knew nothing, challenging the self-proclaimed intellectuals of his time. By questioning everything, he revealed the limits of human knowledge, something that made him a threat to those in power. In Shakespeare's plays, the fool is often the one character who speaks the truth that others dare not say. Take King Lear's jester. He mocks the king's poor decisions, but ultimately serves as his most honest advisor. The fool, in these cases, serves as a mirror to human folly, exposing the contradictions and hypocrisies of those who consider themselves wise. Similarly, Erasmus's In Praise of Folly argues that foolishness is essential to human happiness. He suggests that the fool, by ignoring rigid social expectations, often lives a freer and more joyful life than those trapped by their own intelligence and status. The fool, in this view, is a necessary force for joy, honesty, and spontaneity. The negative fool, recklessness, delusion, and ignorance. But the fool also has a darker side. When unbalanced, foolishness turns into recklessness, naivety, and self-destruction. The negative fool is someone who ignores warnings, refuses to learn from mistakes, and mistakes ignorance for confidence. A classic example is Don Quixote, who, blinded by his idealistic fantasies, mistakes windmills for giants and attacks them in a delusional quest. His foolishness is not wisdom, but detachment from reality, and it ultimately leads to his downfall. Another example is the tarot's fool, often depicted as a wanderer about to walk off a cliff, blissfully unaware of the danger ahead. This represents the shadow side of foolishness, where recklessness leads to avoidable suffering. The fool as a truth teller. Despite these risks, the fool remains a necessary force in society. His ability to challenge wisdom, question authority, and expose truth through humor and blunt honesty is essential. Many times, fools reveal what the so-called wise refuse to see. We see this today in comedians, satirists, and social commentators. They act as modern-day jesters, speaking uncomfortable truths in a way that people can accept, and more on that later. Great fools do not just entertain, they disrupt, challenge, and provoke deep thought. So, is it better to be a fool who speaks the truth, or a wise person who remains silent? That is the question we must ask as we explore the fool's role in self-growth and personal transformation. The fool in psychology and personal growth. The fool is not just an archetype found in mythology, literature, or history. It is also a powerful psychological tool for self-transformation. Embracing the fool within ourselves means letting go of the fear of failure, stepping outside of societal expectations, and allowing curiosity to guide us toward personal growth. Many of us live trapped by fear of making mistakes, fear of looking foolish, fear of being judged. But what if we viewed foolishness not as a weakness, but as a necessary stage in personal development? The fool dares to try and fail, while others remain paralyzed by overthinking. By embracing the fool's playful, risk-taking mindset, we unlock the ability to experiment, learn, and grow without being weighed down by self-doubt. The greatest innovators, artists, and visionaries throughout history were often labeled fools at first, laughed at for their radical ideas. But in allowing themselves to step into the unknown, they made discoveries that changed the world. Next, the power of Shoshin, the beginner's mind. In Zen Buddhism, there is a concept called Shoshin, or beginner's mind. This idea suggests that the best way to approach life is with the openness and curiosity of a beginner, rather than the rigid certainty of an expert. As the Zen master Shunryu Suzuki put it, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few." When we believe we already know everything, we close ourselves off to new ideas. The fool, on the other hand, is constantly learning because he does not pretend to be an expert. He is open to new perspectives, unafraid to ask stupid questions, and willing to admit his ignorance. Embracing beginner's mind means allowing ourselves to fail, adapt, and evolve without fear of looking foolish. It means breaking free from perfectionism and realizing that mistakes are not failures, but stepping stones to wisdom. Overcoming fear of judgment. One of the biggest obstacles to self-growth is the fear of what others think. Many people avoid trying something new, not because they lack the ability, but because they don't want to risk looking foolish. But the fool doesn't care about social approval. He laughs at himself. He embraces his imperfections. By adopting the fool's mindset, we gain the courage to speak up even if our voice shakes, take risks even if we might fail, express ourselves authentically without fear of judgment. The irony is, those who fear looking foolish are often the ones who remain stuck, while those who embrace their foolishness eventually gain confidence and success. The fool's journey versus the hero's journey. The fool's journey is often compared to the hero's journey, made famous by Joseph Campbell. However, there is a key difference. The hero's journey follows a structured path, a call to adventure, a great challenge, and a triumphant return. The fool's journey is uncertain and chaotic. He stumbles, he falls, he learns through failure. But in this process, he discovers himself. The fool does not wait for the perfect moment to begin. He simply takes the first step, not knowing where the road will lead. He teaches us that growth is not about reaching a final destination, but about embracing the journey itself. Many people wait for certainty before taking action, but the fool shows us that certainty is an illusion. The only way to learn is by jumping in, making mistakes, and adapting along the way. The question is, are you willing to embrace the fool within you? To step into the unknown, risk failure, and grow into something greater than you ever imagined? Because wisdom does not come from avoiding mistakes. It comes from making them, learning from them, and moving forward despite them. The modern fool. From comedians to rebels. The fool isn't just an ancient archetype, it is alive and well today. In modern society, the fool has taken on new forms. Comedians, satirists, and cultural critics who use humor to reveal uncomfortable truths. The fool exposes hypocrisy, challenges norms, and disrupts the status quo, often in ways that traditional authority figures cannot. But behind the laughter, there is often a deeper sadness and complexity, a reality best captured by what psychologists call the sad clown paradox. The sad clown paradox, when comedy hides pain. Many of history's greatest comedians, those who make us laugh the hardest, are often the ones struggling the most internally. This is known as the sad clown paradox. Comedy is often a mask for suffering. Figures like Robin Williams, Richard Pryor, and Jim Carrey have spoken about how humor was their way of coping with pain. By making others laugh, they could escape their own inner struggles, if only for a moment. The fool, in this sense, is both a liberator and a prisoner. He can help others see the absurdity of life, but often at the cost of his own emotional well-being. This paradox has deep historical roots. In medieval courts, jesters were allowed to mock kings and challenge authority, but they were often social outcasts, respected for their wit, but never truly accepted. And yet, the fool remains necessary, because he plays a role that few others dare to. Modern comedians and social commentators act as our society's jesters, using humor to expose the cracks in our systems. Take George Carlin, one of the most influential stand-up comedians of all time. His routines were not just about jokes, they were about revealing hypocrisy in politics, religion, and culture. He used comedy as a weapon against ignorance, making people laugh while forcing them to confront uncomfortable realities. Similarly, Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, and Bill Hicks have used satire to tackle social and political issues, sometimes controversially, but always as an attempt to push the boundaries of thought. Even fictional characters like the Joker represent the darker side of the fool, not just as a comedian but as a chaotic force that exposes the fragility of order. In films like The Dark Knight and Joker, 2019, he embodies what happens when society rejects the fool instead of listening to him. His humor turns into anarchy and destruction. But what makes the fool so powerful is that he speaks in a way that cuts through social resistance. Where philosophers and politicians fail to connect, the fool gets past people's defenses through laughter. Why the fool is needed in today's society. Now more than ever, the fool is needed. We live in a time of division, ideological rigidity, and political correctness, where people are afraid to speak their minds. The fool, however, does not care about social conventions. He speaks the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. He challenges rigid thinking by showing the absurdity of extremes. He breaks societal rules and forces us to rethink what we accept as normal. He reminds us not to take life too seriously, that humor is essential for survival. The fool is both a warning and an inspiration. He reminds us that if we suppress uncomfortable truths for too long, they will find a way to surface, often in ways we least expect. And perhaps in a world that increasingly fears mistakes, discomfort, and laughter at its own expense, the fool remains the last free voice in a society that would rather silence him. The fool is both a warning and an invitation to freedom. He represents the paradox of wisdom and ignorance, reminding us that those who think they know everything are often blind, while those who embrace their own foolishness remain open to growth. From Socrates to Shakespeare's jesters, from medieval tricksters to modern comedians, the fool has always played a crucial role in human understanding. He exposes the limits of conventional wisdom, challenges rigid thinking, and pushes us to see reality with fresh eyes. But the fool is also a mirror, one that reflects our own fear of failure, our attachment to control, and our resistance to stepping into the unknown. Wisdom and foolishness are interconnected. True wisdom is not about avoiding mistakes, but about learning from them. The fool dares to act where others hesitate, knowing that failure is not the enemy, it is the teacher. This is why foolishness and wisdom are not opposites, but two sides of the same coin. As Shakespeare wrote, "The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool." In other words, wisdom begins when we recognize our own ignorance. So, what does this mean for us? It means daring to ask questions, even if they seem foolish, taking risks, even when failure is possible, laughing at ourselves instead of taking life too seriously, being open to new perspectives instead of clinging to certainty. The fool invites us to step outside our comfort zones, to play, to explore, and to grow. Because in the end, the greatest mistake is not being foolish, it is being too afraid to try. So, will you embrace the fool within? If you found value in this video, subscribe to Self by Default for more insights into philosophy, psychology, and self-improvement. Hit the like button and let me know in the comments. How has embracing the fool's mindset changed your perspective on life? The fool's journey is one of endless discovery, and yours is just beginning. See you in the next video.